Hey folks, walk with me. Well, it's a little bit windy today, but hopefully we'll be okay audio-wise. I'm actually back in a park that I haven't filmed in for this series yet, but if you go back early videos when I was doing some outdoors stuff, I filmed here once and I came upon like a little fort that somebody had built. And yeah, this is that same spot. But today, wow, that sky looks fake, doesn't it? It's crazy. Today, I thought that I would share a recurring dream that I have that I don't like at all. I don't know does anyone have happy recurring dreams? Recurring dreams that make them wake up and feel safe and sound and pleased? If so, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. But no, if you have other recurring dreams, I find it interesting. I often find dreams sort of intriguing. I'm not super into it. I know some people get really into it, but it wasn't until maybe the last 5 or 10 years, which I know is kind of a big spread, 5 years or double that, but it wasn't so long that I've been having recurring dreams, so it's pretty new to me. And yeah, I just never had them before, and so it's kind of random that it just sort of popped up also sort of in my 30s or 40s. But in any case, the dream is recurring, but it has progressed over time, which is also kind of odd. Or at least to me, it seems kind of odd. So, the setup of the dream is basically that I am the lead role in a stage performance, like a theater performance. And I was a theater performance major in college. And so the setting is always very realistic. There's often people who I actually went to school with, who I was actually in shows with. And that's also kind of interesting to me, that they're real people, many of which I haven't seen for 20 or so years. But the setup is I'm the lead in this stage performance, and the day of the show has arrived. And I realize that I've not memorized my lines. And it's mortifying. And early on in the dream, meaning the first few times that I had the recurring dream, it would be it would stop right around there, like right around the time frame in which I don't know, realized or discovered. See, this is the goofiness of a dream, right? It's not like you wouldn't know when the show was happening and be able to have your lines memorized in time. But the concept of the dream is such that for whatever reason, all of a sudden the day of the show is there, and I suddenly realize that as the lead, I don't know my lines. And so that's sort of where it would stop in the first few times that I had this recurring dream. Then it progressed to me trying to solve the problem. Me trying to, beg and plead and steal and borrow, scripts that people have, right? Like I couldn't even find a script. That was the thing. So as the dream progressed, then it got into, okay, you don't have the lines, it's the day of the show, and you're freaking out, and now you're trying to find a script. But I don't have a script for whatever reason. And so then I start asking around, asking everyone. And again, once I got to this piece of the dream where I was looking for a script, the first few times that I had it as a recurring dream, and I got to that point, I would sort of get I would get the script essentially, but I wouldn't really have time to do anything more than try to quickly memorize, or even just like grasp the cues that I have to go on stage or to start speaking. I would only have enough time to try to like quickly understand those cues, memorize them, and then get my first few lines, knowing full well that there's not going to be enough time in between my speaking parts on stage or my time on stage in order to get then my next set of lines and memorize them. And so knowing full well that I'm going out there with, you know, the first 2 or 3 sentences that I have to say, and then I'm just as screwed as I was before. So it's very minimal relief, if you will. And then the dream progressed. So all those same things would happen. Show up, realize it's the day of the show, don't know the lines, seek a script, and then script seeking began to get harder. So that was the next iteration, was it wasn't as freely available anymore. So I would have a hard time getting my hands on a script, and eventually I would. And in this further iteration of the dream, then the audience was starting to come. And so this had never happened before. Now it's not just me freaking out by myself, right? That was the very first iteration. Then the second iteration was me freaking out and cluing other people into it, and them sort of provided me with some info, although it wasn't going to be enough or quickly enough. And then it was and then it was me freaking out, getting others involved as well, and then knowing that I'm going to go out there and just absolutely ruin everything with this audience, because the audience is here now, or they're coming in, right? And they're finding seats and they're getting settled, and it's gonna happen, right? That's sort of the next big feeling, was like, oh, it's gonna happen. And there's no pun intended here, but there's no script for this. Basically is the thought, right? Like, oh my God, the show is really honestly going to happen, and this is uncharted territory. So what do we do now? So there was a time where then that would be the end of the dream. The audience was coming. Then, eventually, we got to a point where all those same things would happen. The audience would get there. They'd be coming in. And then the show would begin. And I sort of, like I said, this is the only recurring dream I think I have. And I was like really surprised and perplexed that it was progressing, that it wasn't just most literally like the same thing, but that it was progressing. But I never really thought, I guess, don't they say like you can't die in a dream, like you yourself can't die in a dream, otherwise you die in real life, or some weird thing like that. I feel like I've heard at some point. But I thought that there's no way that I can, I'm kind of lost here. There's no way that I can get to the point where the show's actually happening, right? This is all just set up and stuff that's happening kind of in the background. And while it's like terrifying and embarrassing, it's like, it's just me and like the other people in the show who know it. But now, cat's out of the bag, and the audience is coming, and it's gonna, those two things are gonna come to a head. And so, I go out on stage, and I fumble through the first few lines that I sort of had the ability to memorize, and then I wake up, right, in a complete panic. And it was horrifying. And so then I had one more iteration of the dream, and I've not had this recurring dream now for maybe a few months, but the last iteration that I had of it, all the same things happen, and then basically the director comes out with, and this was an actual professor, director that I had in college. Director comes out and he's basically like, you know, we apologize. The lead for the show is not able to perform. He doesn't know his lines, and so we're not gonna be able to do this today. And everyone is like really disappointed and distraught, including my my compadres. And we oddly then still like sat down on like the edge of the stage or toward the front of the stage and took a photo. So it was like, oh, this person is ruined it all for the audience. Go home, everyone. It's not happening. Sorry, cast and crew. It's not happening for you either, because the lead has not done his part and there's just no path forward. But let's take a photo and commemorate this moment. Very odd. But if you have any, you know, I have my own thoughts about what this means, and maybe I'll do another video on that, so it's already too long to get into that. But if you have interpretations that you'd like to share, maybe I can sort of blend them in to my interpretation video if I end up doing it. But leave a comment if you do have some either interpretation of this or your own recurring dream that happens. Be interested to hear about it. And it doesn't have to be this, but I'm intrigued to know if anyone has happy recurring dreams. Sometimes I do have happy, just sort of standalone dreams where I'll sort of wake up. I don't know if happy is right, but I have definitely woken myself up laughing before. And when I wake up, I'm still laughing, and then realize I'm laughing about something that was happening in a dream that then woke me up. So, but yeah, anything along those lines, be super interested to hear about. And yeah, we'll see if we do this sort of revisiting of this one and sort of what my internalization and my interpretation has been. Well, I got a little lost there. We're gonna end up getting 13 minutes in our walk here. Unfortunately, because I got a little lost and I had to backtrack, I thought I was gonna be able to do a loop. I can't show you the animals. There's cool pasture of animals. I'm just not gonna have time to get there. So I'll pop by here again, we'll do another one, and I'll be sure to include some animals. There's donkeys, horses, cows, goats. I think there's some llamas, which are not my favorite. And try to scoop those into a video here sometime soon. But thanks a bunch if you walked these 13 or so minutes with me, and if you didn't, I still appreciate you watching until the end for sure. And as always, I will see you in the next video.